How many people can say that they have played pickleball on Saddam Hussein's helipad? Yeah, that's right, Saddam Hussein's helipad. Well, one of our two guests has done just that. You're about to meet Chuck and David Gaudette, two brothers who also happen to have a best-in-class private indoor pickleball facility. They're part of the Cobourg pickleball community, they're coaches and passionate pickleball players. I hope you enjoy meeting them on this episode of Kitchen Conversations. Well, gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Kitchen Conversations, and thanks for being here. I was flipping through my calendar this morning and realized that the very first time that we talked was all the way back in January of this year, and my recollection of that conversation was it didn't go particularly well for us. I had some kind of a technical glitch, and so it's great to see you both here this morning. I want to welcome you into the podcast, so thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Yeah. Well, listen, I've got a lot on my list here I'd like to talk about, but when we first chatted back in January, you were both down in Arizona. I'd like to touch base on pickleball in Arizona and sort of how that came to be in your life down there. And because the two of you are living an ultimate dream, as far as I'm concerned, you're playing pickleball pretty much 12 months a year. You've got an incredible facility here at home in Cobourg, and I want to talk a bit about that in a few minutes. But tell me a bit about how you both got into the game, and tell me a little bit about how Arizona became part of your life, because I think that's a great part of this story.
So basically, we were introduced to pickleball on a cruise ship. We were with 12 members of the family, Chuck's family. Was Mom with us?
No.
No. Anyways, our brother-in-law came down one day and said they're playing something called pickleball upstairs, and we looked at each other and never heard of the name before. And so we went up to try it out, and yeah, we fell immediately in love with the game. So much so that we came back and bought 4 wooden paddles, some balls, and just looked for places to play. And there was no pickleball courts around at the time. So, we just had to kind of, sometimes we would put tape down or just play, so. But then we ended up going to Arizona the next year instead of a cruise, and pickleball was certainly bigger down there than up here at the time. And there was a local club that we joined that was just on tennis courts, and we ended up going down there for a couple of seasons. And I think in the second season, Chuck was with the military in Kuwait, and he came back for a holiday, and we were looking for other places to move to, possibly that were a little bit more pickleball oriented instead of the small community that we had. And we went to a place called Robeson Ranch in Casa Grande, and just fate had it that day they had a 600 plus member tournament going on. And I remember Chuck kind of doing the IKEA, stop the car, look what's going on here. And yeah, we were sold. That community is just awesome. And it's not just pickleball, but pickleball for us down there is a big part of our life down in Arizona.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's such a hotbed. And I know just so many people, guys, that head down each year. And Casa Grande is a specific spot that gets mentioned quite regularly. And it's a completely different game, it seems to me, in those types of setups than what maybe we're used to. I mean, when you start talking 600 people, that's a different game than what I see here. Would you agree with that? Do you find pickleball in Arizona slightly different? Is there a different feel to it? Does it just seem like it's the bigger stage? Is there something about it down there that we're just not understanding here in Ontario?
I think number one, the weather. So we're outside, we're playing outside all the time. I think there was probably, I could count on both hands. I'm down there, we're both down there for like 5 months. And I could count on both hands how many times we couldn't play because of rain or wind. So the weather in Arizona is fantastic. Not humid. It's a desert. We get very little rain, so we can play a lot. There's 2 main communities there. The one we're in, Robeson, we have just a little over 600 members, and then there's Palm Creek, and I believe they're like 12 or 1300.
Yeah.
In their club, and we go there sometimes to play, rarely, but we go there sometimes to play. So there's just so many people in the area playing, and our gated community, it's only our courts. So when we go there, it's our group, and it's organized the way the membership wants. So we'll jump in the golf cart and we'll drive over to the courts, and we'll just hang out. And if you just hang out, somebody will eventually say, hey, do you want to play? Or you're just going over, you've already arranged a game, or you're with your scheduled time. So it's all, for us, it's all pickleball. So it's none, like back here, we have to, okay, who wants to play? And okay, well, we got to drive an hour and a half, or we drive into Cobourg. or we play up here in the court at David's house. So I think that's it. There's just way more people, and I think the quality, the caliber is higher too. So with having more people, you're going to have more people your caliber.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's great points. Yeah, I stopped into Palm Creek. We were doing a cross-country road trip. My wife and I, a couple of years back, got to stop in and glance around there. And boy, I was in the office looking for real estate, about an hour after I got there. I thought, this is my cup of tea right here. There was a certain vibe
That's
about it.
nice.
There was an Airstream trailer there that sold, food, and it was just unbelievable. And the courts and the way that they structured them on the levels, the 2-5s, the 3-5s, and, and the way they put it all together, it was really something to see. So yeah, it's very interesting. Now, when you're down there, are you coaching? Are you teaching? Are you just playing? What does a winter look like? What do those 5 months look like for the two of you down there?
Yeah, we play a lot, obviously. Like most of the time we're playing 7 days a week. But we volunteer for the club. David and I teach the 3-0 group, and that's a volunteer thing. We do it once a week, always full. We take 8 people, and they get a 2-week session once every week, and it's full all the time. They're always saying, okay, when are we doing? Every group has their volunteer. So right from the 2-0s right up to the 4-0s. They have, oh no, the 4-0s don't.
Well, we had a couple sessions.
Yeah, we don't. In the 4-0s and 4-5s, they don't really have it. So up to 3-5, they have the volunteers, and they give lessons. Also, we do lessons down there for anybody who wants them.
But they're free because we're not allowed to make money in the States.
Right, of course. We do it.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. I forgot about that part.
Nobody's listening to this podcast. You got nothing to worry about. That's the only good news. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, that's great.
So we spend a lot of time on the courts, a ton of time. That's the main reason. I think we've talked before, and we said, if it wasn't for pickleball, would we be down at Ropes and Ranch? And I would venture to say probably wouldn't be. But they have a million things there. Anything you want to do. It's this 55+ community. The pools and the pool hall and the cornhole and card groups and glass blowing and everything. So would we be there, or would I be there? Probably not. I don't know if David would or not.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but pickleball is definitely there, so we're good to go.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just the game itself, guys, and I think that if there's something I love about it, and there's a lot to love about this game, but it's the ability for someone to come in, and you talked about getting involved in the game, and, someone coming into it for the very first time who perhaps hasn't played a racket sport, hasn't got a background in it, might be a bit reluctant to pick up a paddle and give it a go. But I think the one thing about the game, if I was to advocate for you, the person listening who hasn't done it, is don't let that bother you. Step out onto a court, pick up a paddle, give it a go. It's an easy game to learn. It's a hard game to master, of course, which is the old saying. But, I think you would both echo that probably as much from your teaching side as your playing side. But this is a game that someone who has not had any type of racket experience, or maybe even I go as far as saying sports experience, can step out onto a court and within 20-30 minutes, really almost be having the time of their life.
Yeah, 100%. We had 2 ladies, or I had 2 ladies had their first lesson last week. They had contacted me and said, we're hearing a lot of this game, never touched it, never played it. We'd like to try it to see if we can even do it. So then they had their first lesson last week. I was there with them yesterday on their second lesson. They had bought paddles, balls, and one of the ladies is buying a net to set up in her driveway, her and her husband. She said, I'm going to force my husband, who is a big badminton player. I said, he's going to do well at this if he's a badminton player. And I'm going to force my husband to hit the ball back and forth with me in our driveway. So they liked it that much in one lesson.
We had probably a couple of years, or even 3 years. Time flies as we're getting older. But we had at our local Cobourg Pickleball Club, we had to learn to play, and there was a gentleman who came out, and his name's Terry.
You know him, Mike. You play pickleball with him all the time.
Yeah, listen, I'm in therapy over Terry. That's how I'm doing. Jesus.
He came out, never played before.
Yeah.
Tries it once. We have an in-house tournament the next week. He's in the in-house tournament. He buys himself a net within a week, paddles, I've never seen anybody adapt quicker to the game than Terry.
No, and he arguably, David is one of the greatest advocates for the game. I mean, I just played with Terry a few weeks ago up in Peterborough at Smash Courts with Jody and Jeff Allen in the spot they've set up, and Terry got involved in almost a fist fight with the radio station up there a couple months back when they were saying something he didn't like about pickleball. So he pulls his truck over, gets on the phone, calls up these two guys in the radio and says, "If it's that easy, come on out and play me." And they did. I mean, they came out and did a radio event, and I mean, it was great. And Terry, of course, was out there in his glorious pink colors and bandana and all full of attitude. And but it was a fundraiser, and it was just a great awareness event that Jeff and Jody had hosted with Terry's help, and they it's just a great thing. But yeah, the game, that's part of the game that I love, is people like Terry. He's very colorful. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. None of that surprises me. But when you first start that game, and I want to touch base on the kitchen, because it's something, if you're listening and you don't understand the game, you'll hear about the kitchen. The podcast is called Kitchen Conversations. There's a reason for that. But that's probably the most integral part of the game. The most important thing that got built into the game back in 1965 when they first started was to incorporate that into the game. Because without the kitchen, I'm not sure the sport would have survived. Because standing at the net, pounding the ball back and forth, I just don't think it would have had the longevity that it's had. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, the importance of the kitchen in the game today.
It's funny you mentioned that. When we were on the cruise first learning it, didn't have a clue what the rules were. So it was a mini tennis court to us. So tennis rules fly. So we're right at the net, pounding the ball with each other and saying, "This is fun." We're hammering at each other.
I liked it there.
It was fine with me. It was a lot of fun. And then this younger couple came on who knew how to play. So they said, "Okay, well, we're going to rotate." There's only one court on the ship, so we're going to rotate. They come in and we're playing them, and we're all pretty athletic, so we're pretty good, is what we thought.
Yeah, not really.
Because we're smoking the balls at them and they can't return them. So finally, the guy has enough guts to tell us, he goes, "Here's the rule. See that white line back there? You can't hit the ball from the air up when you're standing in there. You got to be behind that." Oh, okay. So we just disregarded it and kept smoking the ball at them. Well, finally, the guy says, "Okay, I'm going to have to start calling a fault every time you do that, because you can't play that way." So it was a totally different game, but I agree that without it, it would have said, "Okay, well, this is too easy. Let's move on to some other sport." So it's a necessity, and it's a good part of the game.
Yeah, no, 100%. I read the history book that Jennifer LaCour and her mom had written a few years back. And I mean, there's so much in that book, if you guys have had a chance to see it or not. But it's a book I think you would need to read as a pickleball person a number of times. It's just, you almost get bogged down chapter by chapter, just how much content they were able to put in there. But the story, as I understand it, is the kitchen was not originally part of the game. And the people that invented the game had a friend that was 6'4" or 6'5", and to your point, stood there and pounded the ball all day. So they kept telling him, "You got to back up and back up." And so they ultimately started pushing that line back. And yeah, I think it sits at 7 feet from each side of the net today. And without that, I just think the game would, I don't think we'd be sitting here talking about it today. So that's great. So tell me a bit more about your coaching. Let's just touch lightly on that. How long have you been doing it? Have you gone through the certifications and NCCP coaching levels? Is that where does all of that sit in your world today, as far as the two of you are concerned?
I'll start. When I retired from the military, I did 32 years in the military, and when I retired, there was which I didn't know about until after they're releasing me, and they're saying, "Okay, here's your benefits," and one of them was there was an amount of money they give you to go do self-improvement. And I said, "Well, what's self-improvement?" They said, "Well, basically anything. Go, as long as you give us the receipt, we'll pay for it." So of course I said, "Well, is pickleball? Will you pay me to go get my pickleball certifications?" They said, "Of course we will." So I went and did, I think the first thing I did was Briones, wasn't it? Or did I do a course?
I think we did IPTA, didn't we?
Okay, so we went and did in Arizona. I think, Dave, at Kingston, you guys do IPTA, don't you?
I don't know.
I think Dave is an IPTA guy. So
could be.
We went and did our level 1 there. So we're certified level 1 IPTA instructors. I went and did my rater. So I'm a certified rater up to 3.5. And then I went to, I don't know if you heard of Jordan Briones.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. So he's in Arizona.
Okay.
So in Phoenix, and we're just an hour south. So I took his 2-day intensive. It was 4 of us. He took 4 of us for 10 hours.
Wow.
Now it was expensive, but
Yeah, I didn't go.
David didn't go.
I didn't get the government to pay for mine.
So I went and did that for 2 days, 10 hours with Jordan. It was fantastic. Learned a lot. And then I did my NCCP in, I'm going to say Scarborough. And I did my IFP level 2. So I just went and did the whole gambit. I've got all kinds of different different certifications. So if you ask me if I'm certified, I can just give me one and I'll tell you whether I'm certified at it or not.
I mean, Chuck takes it to another level. Chuck also used to coach curling a lot. And so he took it up to the national levels or something
Yeah,
like
I'm a
that.
level 3 curling coach also, and my son was heavily into it. They won the Canada Games gold one year, and I was there in Halifax. So when I jump into a sport, I jump in both feet. I love it.
Do you think? Yeah. Yeah. I can see why maybe you and Terry are good friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a certain intensity there. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, we do we do lessons up at the Moose all the time. I think we'll get into that shortly, but David has an indoor court. We're at David's house right now, and he's got an indoor court at his house. So that's where we play a lot and we do a lot of our lessons.
Well, let's talk about the Moose because I've been there. In fact, I videotaped the Moose on the way to the driveway. I almost drove off the driveway taking a look at him. But yeah, I just love it. What a facility you guys have put together there. And Chuck, you were telling me the story off camera when I was there about how that came to be and how you ended up in the area. And I'd love for you guys to share that story. I think it's a great part of what you guys are up to.
That goes back 2002 when we ended up coming out here. Or you did.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we came out to this area. David owns a landscaping company that I ran for a while, but then I went back in the military. And so when I went back in the military, left the area, and then when I was retiring, David's calling me, and we get one move when we retire, all paid for when we retire from the military. And I'm looking different places across Canada that we want to live, my wife and I. And David phones me and says, "What?" We were in Trenton at the time. I was living in Belleville, so just up the road. And David said, "Why don't you move back to Cobourg?" Because he was here, and our wives are married. Our wives are sisters, so brothers married sisters. So it made sense, bring the family back together. And he said, "Why don't you move back to Cobourg?" And I said, "Maybe. We're looking at different areas." And he goes, he had just bought a farm where we are now, 74 acres. And he said, "I'm building a pickleball court. Come back here." And I said, "Maybe, we'll see." And then we were talking about it. And he said, "Well," I said as a joke, "if you build an indoor pickleball court, I'll move to Cobourg."
Not thinking I would.
Yeah. So we were up here working, and it's super windy up here, and an outdoor pickleball court would not have worked. We would rarely get to play on it. So he calls me the next week and he says, "You're moving to Cobourg. I'm building an indoor court."
Well, your word's your bond, Chuck. Your word's your bond. Yeah.
I did not expect that to happen.
We've since looked at it several times, wondering how we could add a second indoor court to the building, but physically it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
But we've looked at it.
Well, what a facility. I mean, I'm so happy to get a chance to stop in there, I guess maybe a month ago and just get my eyes on it. And because I've seen the photos and we've talked about it a bit, when we first chatted back in January, but to have a chance to stand there and yeah, it's quite a setup. And I think, for you guys to have that kind of love for the game and the commitment, I think it's just terrific. And I'm getting a sense that as brothers, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys seem to be pretty tight, and that's not always the case, but I just get a sense that the two of you are friends as much as anything. And the fact that you married sisters, I think just adds to the story. It's just a terrific story. I just love all of that. So thanks for sharing it. But yeah, I get a sense you guys are pretty tight.
They met at our wedding.
Okay.
Chuck and his wife met, where the bride, you put the wedding parties together.
Yes.
But yeah, Chuck and I spend almost more time together than with our wives because Chuck and I are up on the farm here all basically 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do some drilling, but there's always something to do on the farm. And like Chuck said, we have the landscaping company, so sometimes we both get involved on a project doing that, but we kind of get to do what we want to do. And the name of our company up here for doing farm work is Good Enough.
Good enough.
The good enough company.
The good enough guys. The
What
Gaudette.
do you think of that fence? Good enough.
The good enough Gaudettes. I like that. Yeah. That kind of summarizes my game. It's not great, but it's good enough. So yeah, I love that. Well, listen, that's great. And I think, the fact that you guys can spend the whole year together, and, my brother, unfortunately, he and I aren't tight. He's out in the West Coast and we don't get to see one another very often. So when I see siblings like you that are enjoying the game, loving the sport and spending so much time together with it, I think it's great. So what about the kids? Are kids involved in the game at all? Are they playing? What's the story with that?
Well, we just had a big, lately, Monday nights we've been playing, but Chuck's hurt his calf for the last few weeks. So his son plays with us, and we have every Monday night we've been doing for a while now, some good high level games. And so his son plays, and my other son plays too.
Yeah.
And now his wife's just picked it up and she's loving it. So
great.
Yeah,
and both our wives play too.
Yeah, oh yeah, they better play. They wouldn't be with us anymore if they didn't want to play.
Well, I was going to say they've given up on you guys. Yeah. I had a chance to chat with a lady last week who runs a Facebook dating site, an app called Pickleball Dating, and it was a fascinating conversation with her. And that's what it's all about, guys, is trying to connect people that realize that they're at a point in their life where I just can't be with a human that doesn't play pickleball. Like I'm not addicted. So there's no point in me dating someone that doesn't play pickleball. So she's created, one of these online dating app things, which I don't spend any time on, thankfully. But yeah, fascinating story that she had in trying to connect pickleball players with pickleball players to try to find love and a life of pickleball ahead, which is just great. So yeah, I love it.
We, however, do not play tournaments with our wives.
Well, no, that's a given. No, isn't that a rule?
It's not a good go. It's hard to play just a rec game together.
Yeah. No, David, I think that's a rule. If you dig deep enough, and there's a rule book somewhere, and certainly one of Chuck's certifications would probably endorse that, I think, somewhere along the way. So. And if it's not a rule, we should advocate that it become a rule. So yeah, Fran plays, my wife plays socially twice a week. She's there this morning as you and I are, the three of us are chatting, but I'm not convinced they keep score, these ladies. That's just, no, I'm not, but it's great. But they've created a friendship group. They've done some travel together. They were golfing last week. I mean, the whole thing is, and on a more serious note, without pickleball, that friend group doesn't exist, and it's beautiful. Yep. But I think it's important to recognize as husband and wife or partners in life that there's certain things that maybe are better left, on the sidelines, and competitive pickleball might just be one of them. Yeah, 100%. So all of that, you've got the private club, you love it. You're playing, you're down in Arizona. You love the atmosphere and the game down there. It's a little more serious perhaps down there than here, but it sounds like it's all consuming. When does Selkirk become part of your story? Because I understand you're either one or both are Selkirk advocates. Tell me a bit about that and how that all came to be.
I honestly, I was thinking about it the other day. I figured you might ask that, and I don't remember whether they contacted me or I contacted them. I don't remember. I've had a few offers. There was another company just probably about half a year ago. They contacted me asked me if I was interested. So anyway, however, I contacted them or they contacted me. We went over the rules and all that, signed contracts and everything. And so yeah, I'm a Selkirk advocate. And Selkirk also, they have several different plans. They sponsor, they do sponsors of people who give lessons. So they sponsor David and I to do the lessons at the Moose. Actually, Peterborough is having their opening, I guess I'll call it a club opening next Saturday, and I'm going to go up there and demo paddles for them. So I go around doing that, and obviously you get a bit of a discount when you buy Selkirk stuff. So yeah, I love it. Selkirk's a great company. Mm-hmm. They're arguably, I guess, the number one brand out there right now. Yeah. And yeah, it's great for the game and great for me. So it's a nice partnership with Selkirk.
Yeah, it's great to see. Chuck, sorry, go ahead, David.
They just bought Bread and Butter Pickleball Company too, right?
I was just going to say that was a big news story, wasn't it, when that broke, for sure?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, are you going to demo those paddles?
Well, they haven't come out with any rules on it yet, what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. So I don't know anything about that yet. They haven't told us yet.
Because we only
Right.
have about 50 paddles lying around. We might as well get some more.
We need more.
Yeah, we need more. Well, there never is enough, right? Feed the addiction for sure. There's
Oh,
nothing
yeah.
more exciting. I imagine there's nothing more exciting as an advocate than a new paddle showing up that you've got first look at.
100%.
Yeah,
And we
that's
usually get
got to
them.
be. Yeah,
They'll usually ship them to us 2 weeks before they actually come out, so we can start
right.
demoing them and get the interest out there. Like when the boomstick came out, it was everybody wanted it. So I've got 3 of them, and when I do demo days, everybody says you got a boomstick. That's the first thing they ask.
Well, they're terrifying paddlers. The noise that comes off of those when they're well struck,
Yeah,
if you're anywhere within earshot, it almost makes your ears ring. Like when it's hit pure, it's something else. And played yesterday in a fairly competitive game, and I think probably half the field. There's 12 of us playing, just rotating through, and I think half the field was playing a boomstick yesterday for sure.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it was
and
really
down in
something.
Arizona, there's a lot. You go out on the courts, a lot of boomsticks,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot
Well,
of boomsticks.
and I heard a rumor, you guys may know this better than me, but I hear with the bread and butter acquisition, they're coming out with a breadstick. I I don't know if that's true or not, but
I have not heard that yet.
good. I just made it up. So yeah, yeah. Got the
I
boomstick
like
and the
it.
bread. Yeah, maybe I should call somebody. Maybe you should call somebody and say, we've got an idea. We want to patent this, but come out with the boomstick and the breadstick. I think
Yeah,
it could work. So yeah. Well, I love the Selkirk story. I'm a big fan. We come from a family owned and operated business background. My family was in HVAC distribution for nearly 50 years down the Kingston way. And so when I hear the Selkirk story about how that really started, and you go back to when you guys got into the game, sort of mid, 2015, 16, whatever. I mean, there wasn't a lot of paddle manufacturers back then. And Selkirk was one of them, one of the leading families that was out there grinding away and building great product and standing behind their product. And they still do today. And I think, when I think of Selkirk, that's probably what comes to mind is the legacy of that family owned company and just their commitment to warranty and looking after their customers. So yeah, so good on you guys for being involved with them. And I think they do so much for the sport, and they give back a lot too. And maybe, the average pickleball player doesn't appreciate that, but yeah, certainly a dominant name.
Yeah.
yeah, they do. And the warranty is yeah, number one. Like everybody says, how can they do that? And I say the same thing. I don't know how they can afford to do that, but their warranties are so good.
I mean, Selkirk was around early, and was it Gamma? Gamma was fairly big around that 2016, 17, and they've kind of faded. My first paddle was a Gamma, and they faded off big time, and Selkirk has just gotten bigger and bigger. I mean, when we first started playing, I had to explain to people what pickleball was. Nobody even really heard of it. We were
Yeah.
telling people all the time we're playing pickleball and said, never heard of it, never heard of it. Now, today, everybody's heard of it.
Yeah, I think there might have been a point almost, David, where it was a bit almost awkward. I wouldn't go as far as saying embarrassing, but perhaps a bit awkward to admit that you were a pickleball player. But then COVID came, and it was just sort of something weird. And I still struggle a bit with the name, and I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe if there was a different name to it when it all started back in the '60s, it might have, been a slightly different pathway. But certainly, it's not a name that any of us would give up today. We just love it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's very fascinating, very interesting. Listen, I don't want to lose track of this story because I kind of jumped ahead, and that's my fault because I'm not particularly good at this, obviously. But you also took pickleball to the Middle East, and I
Yep.
should have probably touched on that a bit earlier. And I just glanced down at my notes, and I don't want to lose focus of that. Tell me that story. How did you end up being involved in getting pickleball into the Middle East? Because that's what we had primarily talked about when we first connected back in January.
So my claim to fame, one of my claim to fames is I was the first guy to play pickleball in Iraq. Now I don't know that to be a fact, and it's probably not, but I'll stick with that I'm the first guy to play pickleball in Iraq. I was told that I'm going to with NATO. I was going to go to Iraq for 6 months on a 6-month tour. Okay, well, I can't do 6 months without pickleball. That's going to be impossible. So I called the guy I was replacing, and I said, "What's the camp like?" It's on a U.S. base in downtown Baghdad. So he said, "Well, it's very small. There's 2,200 people on this place. It's very small, and we're packed in here." I said, "Is there any outdoor courts?" He said, "Well, there's a court there that it was actually the ex-leader's
Saddam Hussein.
Saddam." Yeah, I didn't want to say the name. I know that.
You might have forgot you're shell shocked.
Anyway, it was Saddam Hussein's private elite guard base is where we were based. very small, right in Baghdad. And there was his helicopter pad that they played. They had a half basketball court, they had a volleyball court, and they played floor hockey on it. And that was it. So he says, there's that. So I said, well, that's big enough for a pickleball court. So I contacted Pickleball Canada. And I asked them, I said, I told them I'm going to the Middle East. At that time, I couldn't tell them where I was going. But later on, they approved that I could say where I was going. So I contacted them and I said, I'm going to the Middle East for 6 months. I'm willing to put some money into this, but I wonder if you'd sponsor me with a net. And I'll buy paddles, I'll buy balls, and bring them over with me. So they said, let us contact our marketing department. They called me back the next day, and they said, we're giving you a net, 10 paddles, and 100 balls. And I said, well, that's great, but how am I going to get all that stuff there? Because I have to carry everything myself. And going to that area, you've got helmet, flak vest, all my uniforms.
So he left all that there, the guns here, and just took pickleball.
All the weapons stayed home.
I mean, who wouldn't, David? Who wouldn't, really?
So I actually shoved everything in. I broke everything apart and shoved it in where there was room, except for the net. So how am I going to get this net here? So I just decided I'm going to carry the net under my arm in the box that it came in. So you know the portable nets that come in that little rectangular box. So I didn't even take it out of the box. I'm walking around all the airports to get from Toronto to Baghdad, many airports. And so when I got to Kuwait, we have to stop in Kuwait at the American base there. And so then the military people, I'm walking around with this box and they're saying, what's in the box? Why are you carrying this box? I said, it's a pickleball net. They said, no way. I said, yeah, it is. So we get to, we fly on military aircraft from Kuwait to Baghdad, and you can't drive on the roads. They're too dangerous. So in the airport in Baghdad, we get on a helicopter and we fly to our base. Well, there's many different bases that everybody was going to. So our baggage, helicopters don't take a lot of baggage, so they loaded it separately. So my baggage shows up, everything but the net. And I go, oh no. The net went to another base.
Oh boy.
But they flew it down the next day because I made some calls. I said, where is this net? It's got to be down here. They flew it down the next day. And yeah, within a week, they had the lines painted. And that court was shared with every other sport, and it had to be signed out. So you saw in the gym that they had there, the weight gym, the net, to sign it out was there. So you would have to reserve it. And it was mainly basketball. There was a floor hockey once in a while, volleyball once in a while. And after about a week and a half, 2 weeks, it was pickleball. The people just loved it.
Just took over. Yeah.
They just said, and people were stopping. There was a fence around the court. People were stopping at the fence and said, what is that sport? And all the different countries there were with NATO. So all the different countries were there. So we had, to get somebody high ranking was ideal, because then they would have some influence to say, yeah, you can go ahead and play that anytime you want. So there was a Turkish general, loved it. He was out all the time. There was the Czechs really caught on quick. They got good real fast. And there was one commanding officer there. He goes, I'm bringing this sport back to my unit, and it is going to be our unit PT. And he even said, he goes, where were you? Because he was just leaving when I got there. And he said, where were you 5 months ago? He said, this is so fun. And the Czechs of note were by far the fastest to catch on. But the Canadian, I don't know how many Canadians were there with us, but there were quite a few, and they loved it. Everybody just loved pickleball, and the court was just pickleball. And I left everything there, so I hope they're still playing that today.
Wow, what a story, though. What a story. Again, could that happen at that level with that enthusiasm and maybe any other sport, and it immediately takes over everything, just immediately. Yeah. And I think, do you think how much of the length of the game do both of you attribute to its success? Because I think that's a point that's been brought up a couple of times in the podcast, is the fact that you jump out of a game, depending on the skill level. What's the average game lasting? 12, 15, 18 minutes? Is that fair to say that?
When we run the tournaments, we actually allow for the 3-0 level kind of 20 minutes, but the
Okay.
4-0 plus level 25 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, the rallies are much longer. Yeah, for
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. But you look
Yeah.
at the beginner level, the guys just
Oh
coming
yeah.
in to whack the back and forth, trying to get to 11, laughing more than playing. I
Yeah.
think the fact that you can jump in, jump out, and let's say compared to a tennis game, you look at a tennis match or a golf game, you're talking a much, 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 much longer period of time. And I've always thought the length of the game for pickleball is part of the magic. Why
Yeah.
people love it so much. And you're in and you're out, and you catch a break, you're talking to each other on the sidelines, and clearly that was part of the magic, I would think, Chuck, where you took the game. And but to be playing on that helicopter pad and recognizing, you know, not only what you were doing, but where you were doing it. I mean, there
Yeah.
had to be a certain sense of, I'm having a hard time articulating it, but you're on Saddam Hussein's helicopter pad
Yeah.
playing pickleball. That, like, there's very few on the planet that can claim that. That's a moment. That,
Yeah, I don't think a
that
lot of people are, or a lot of people can have that claim to fame. No, it was very interesting, and
oh, I'll bet.
I mean, what you don't see in I forgot to mention that they wanted me to do a video. So Pickleball Canada wanted me to do a video. So it's on YouTube. If you YouTube Pickleball Canada goes global,
Okay.
there's two videos, part one, part two. Part one is me in my house before I left, showing all the equipment that I got. And part two is us playing in Baghdad.
I love it.
And what you don't see in that video, what I couldn't show, was along every place we had to go, everybody had to carry weapons. So you had a rifle or a pistol at all times where you were. So when we were playing, all the rifles and the pistols are lined up in a line beside the sideline. You can't see it in the videos because we couldn't televise that, but you're playing and all your weapons are just sitting all there, all loaded, all ready to go. So yeah, you had to carry it, whether in gym shorts. So I would walk from my room to the court in dry fit shirt and shorts and a pistol on my hip. So because you couldn't go anywhere without a weapon, that was the rule.
Isn't that
So
something?
it was very interesting to be playing there.
We were in a tournament in Casa Grande when Chuck was in. I think he was in Kuwait at the time. And I'm playing with a buddy down there, and my wife and Christy might have been there. I don't remember possibly, but anyways, we were videoing the game live, and Chuck was watching it from Kuwait.
No way.
Yeah, I was in
Getting a
bed
taste of it.
actually because it was way
Well,
later. So I was in bed watching David and my brother-in-law play in a tournament.
how cool. How cool. Well, you think about just how many lives this game has touched in so many ways. And we talk often on the podcast about loneliness and the role that it plays in filling that. There's people today, and I'll be careful when I say this, but I think there's people that without pickleball wouldn't have a lot of reason to get up and put their feet in the ground in the morning. It's a life-changing game, and I think in some ways it's saving lives. I really do. I think it's giving people purpose, people that have found themselves, perhaps at a stage in life where they're alone. And, without this game and the camaraderie and the socialization that it brings, and the ease at which you can get into the game and meet all these people and become friends, and your whole network just seems to shift. And I don't know about you guys, but I know for my wife and I, if it doesn't involve curling or golf or pickleball, we don't really associate with anybody. Like, everybody we associate with is somehow tied to one of those. And pickleball is certainly the dominant of the three, for sure, 100%. Would you echo that the social side and the loneliness is just such a great part of the game?
Huge social. We were just talking to a lady that we both know at the Dink Den. Was it last week? Anyway, she said, without this, I would have no
Yeah.
social life because the life situation she's in right now, she goes, this is my salvation. This is my social network. This is where I get to let loose. I get to play here. I think she plays once or twice a week at the Dink Den. And she said, this is it for me. And like the Dink Den just opened. I think you know that. The Dink Den in Cobourg just opened. Indoor facility, brand new. And they're big on the social, like their social programs are doing quite well. And they say everybody's coming out and they're enjoying the social part. They have competitive too, but the social's big for them.
I was just reading an article yesterday about that the article was basically saying the same thing, that the clubs that are just trying to give you indoor clubs and just, very nice facilities, but if they're not making the social aspect the number one part of the game, they're not going to succeed.
No, I agree, David, 100%. And it will be interesting. I'm watching the clock. I'll be very mindful. So just a couple of closing thoughts and comments from you both. I appreciate your time this morning. So thank you again for doing this. But, I look at the saturation of indoor clubs, across North America today. I wonder where it's all heading. And I'm going to be talking to Wayne Dollard, who started the tennis magazine years and years ago, and of course segued that into the pickleball magazine. And Wayne's opened up a club in Pennsylvania called Level Up, which ties back into his coaching programming. And he and I are chatting tomorrow. But this is a facility like no other. I mean, he's got 16 courts. He's got an on-site restaurant that's being managed by the food group that does the Penguins, the Pirates, and the Steelers. He's got 3 bars. He's got 20 outdoor patios with fire pits. He's got a golf simulator. He's got badminton there. He's got God knows what else. I mean, it's very interesting to see how far certain entrepreneurs, if you will, for lack of a better term, are taking the game as the foundation for a business plan and then really turning it into almost like Disneyland on steroids. I mean, it's really something to see. And you've got, to go back to Arizona, just if there's something I love about America, and there is a lot I love about America in spite of the moment that we're in, but they just do it well. I mean, there's very little when it comes to this type of conversation that we're having this morning that they don't just excel at. And when they build out something and they decide to take on something, boy, they do it in a big way. And I look at a lot of the clubs across, let's just say Ontario and Canada. And to your point, David, I think there's a danger. And I think about the local clubs here in Kingston, really, that, we've got 7 courts at Kingston Pickleball Club. And you wonder if it's sustainable. Like, is there going to be enough demand there? And how we've got 3 now. We've got the Bubble, which Tennis Clubs of Canada runs 12 courts out there. We've got Fairgrounds, just took over the old Sears space, or the Bay, I guess, in Kingston here. And they've got, I don't know how many courts. So Fairgrounds is up and running in Kingston. And then Kingston Pickleball Club, of course, which started several years ago as a not-for-profit. But it's going to be interesting to see how does programming and other amenities and what's the challenge of all that. And what are your reflections on that? Do you think that we could hit a point of having, I think we went from having not enough courts to the potential of maybe having too many courts. And I wonder if that's going to hurt the game in any way. I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, Peterborough is one example. I mean, we talk about social and all like this. I mean, just when we were down in Costa Grande the first time we were down there, there's 4 or 5 couples from Peterborough now that we never knew before that we play with all the time, and
they live in Robeson Ranch with us.
Yeah, and we just met them there, and they're in Peterborough, and they're just saying, well, now there's a 3rd indoor court opening up, and geez, is the population base big enough to handle it? I especially if you get into, like you said, one of the places where you are is not for profit. Well, how does a for-profit company compete at not for profit? Like, if the government gets in, like Port Hope's putting a dome over their tennis courts. I mean, what are they charging? $2 to play, something like that? I mean, how does a company, if we invested in a company, how do we can't compete against that? So it's going to be a question. I think we're going to see a narrowing down. There's probably going to be too many. There's definitely too many pickleball manufacturers of paddles. I mean, what we need more outdoor courts. We have nothing around here. If anything, we need more outdoor courts. I mean, Peterborough finally just got their act together and opened up just this year, right? So we're catching up real quick indoor, but it's all private.
Yeah, I don't know. And, it's going to, in my little bit of business background, 30 years slugging furnaces and trying to figure out how to turn a nickel into a dime. But, I worry about it all becoming a race to the bottom, and to your point, David, like where does the cost of it and court time and hours and membership, and then you start talking programming and what kind of programming. And if you've got certain facilities that are now becoming more than just pickleball, with golf simulators and, and cornhole and ping pong and badminton, and, we're probably not far off from an indoor pool. And this one in Pennsylvania, I mentioned a moment ago that Wayne Dollard started up. I mean, it is mind blowing, but he's actually attached a 5,000 square foot event facility to the building. So he rents that out for weddings and conferences. And so it's become a conference center as well. So you've got this massive
pickleball wedding. I'm sure they will.
Yeah, well, listen, we could probably debate that the rest of the day, but I do, and I guess I want to wrap up the conversation today, which has been terrific. Thank you again for all of this morning. But, I'd like to get your final thoughts on, what concerns you about the game, the direction that it's heading. You guys have been at it for a long time. You're veterans of the game. And I say that with a high level of respect. I'm not calling you old guys, but I'm telling you, you're veterans of the game. And you started back in 2015, 16. And you're coaching, you've got your own facility, you're playing at a high level. You're playing 12 months a year, you're playing in 2 different countries, and you played on a helipad. So I think that gives you a high level of credibility for this question, which is what concerns you about this game and the direction perhaps that it's heading today?
I think that you talked about saturation. I think that's where we're going. I was reading somewhere, and I don't know how many years ago, but believe it or not, squash was the #1 fastest growing sport in the world. And you think now, squash? How is that even possible? And then what they said was the history behind it was that they just tried to grow too fast. And then just people lost interest. So right now, I think pickleball is very interesting for everything that we talked about. #1, social. Anybody can do it. You can get on and you can be playing with a quick lesson, 5 minutes, you can be hitting the ball with accuracy. So you can do that. Now, it'll be interesting to see what history will do to pickleball, whether it'll be oversaturated and people will just say, you know what, it was fun at the time, but I'm moving on. So will it go the way of the squash, where the hardcore people stayed with squash, but it got to be a very minor sport? So that would be my concern. I mean, we were talking about the tournaments in the area just a couple of days ago, canceling. They're canceling tournaments left and right. Well, I shouldn't say left and right. I know of 3 that were canceled. One was next weekend. There's one 2 weeks from now was canceled. And I'm looking at pickleball tournaments for the other tournaments that are in the area, and they're very low attendance numbers. Now, there's many theories that people are saying, the experience and you go there, you play, you could be 2 and out depending on the format they're using. If you play to the end, you could be there for 6, 8, 10 hours just to get in like 6 or 7 games. And people say, why am I paying to get a $2 medal? So that would be my concern is growing too fast, too quickly, and saturating, and then losing a lot of people. They'll just say, I don't need to do this. I'm going to move on to maybe there'll be some new sport come out and they'll try that.
Yeah, I'm not so worried. I think pickleball is just going to continue to grow. I mean, I played squash when it was in its heyday, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it like I do pickleball.
Right,
Not
right.
even close. I mean, we started playing pickleball, and all I thought about was playing pickleball. Well, there was not another sport, and Chuck and I were both heavily into high level curling, and I didn't dream of curling every night, when I started playing. So I think if I had a concern, it's at the higher level, the professional level. I don't know, around 2019, 2020, I talked Chuck into the 4 of us went to a PPA tournament in Scottsdale. So this is early on when they first started out, and it was $25 to get in, but it was 50 for the VIP tickets. And I said, I'm paying the 50, and Chuck said, I'm not paying $50. Well, we paid the $50, and for 5 hours sat in the first row, 5 feet behind Annalie Waters and Ben Johns playing pickleball. And when the ball rolled by them, because there was no barriers,
Yeah.
there was nothing, we just picked the ball up and gave it back to them. I mean, that was just an experience. And even today, even though now the tickets are like 250, you're saying, for half a day on the.
Well, so we just went, Christy and I, my wife and I, we went up to, when we were down in Arizona, we went up to the tournament in Arizona, or sorry, in Phoenix. And it was it was a weekend. So it was semifinals, finals, and it was 154 American for a half a day. And then you heard the announcer say, okay, those who don't have the afternoon passes have to leave. It was $150. So it's 300 and what do we got? $308 American to spend a day to watch the either, depending if you're there Saturday or Sunday, the semifinals and the finals, which is crazy.
These are VIP tickets, right?
No, they're not VIP tickets. They're grandstand tickets. So you can get into where they're playing the finals.
Oh,
Because what we did, we have a friend. It's interesting. I met through the Selkirk Advocate group. We have a friend. His daughter plays in the PPA Junior Tour, and she's 12. She's 12 this year, and she came down and she comes. They're in Phoenix. She comes down to Robeson Ranch once a year and plays us. Oh, is she good? So we went up to see her, and we only got a grounds pass, and I think they were $45 each. And because we just mainly went up to watch Grace play pickleball, so we couldn't even get into the stands. But to get in the stands, it was not VIP for $154 for a morning.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then Christy and I went. Of course, you want to eat.
Oh yeah.
So we go up to there was one food truck. There was a tent there with some Mexican food or something, but there was one food truck, and there's a ton of people there watching, of course, in the PPA Tour. And it was $25 for a hamburger. No fries, no nothing. $25 American. Like, that's, like David said, that would be my worry is, I mean, are they going to price themselves right out of it's crazy. I'm not spending that kind of money to watch pickleball.
No, as much as we all love it.
The pros are saying, one of the great things is, the pros and amateurs are playing in the same tournament side by side. When it first started, like during the Thursday, Friday, everybody's just on the open court, so you don't have to get a grandstand pass. And whereas tennis, it's very, very elite sport, and you're not touching these people, you're not getting near these people. Where right now they're just one of us. So hopefully that stays like that.
Well, David, you both made excellent points, but that one in particular, and Fran and I, my wife and I, both got to see them in California a couple of years back. And, a lot's happened to this game in just 2 years, but we go back 2 years and we were sitting courtside like you, watching ALW, watching Ben Johns, Jack Sock, Tyson McGuffin. I mean, we were bumping shoulders with them. You could still get to them at that point. And I think I've had others answer that question in a similar way, in the sense that they're worried about the accessibility and the fans and Chuck, to the the point about cost. There is just a jump off point. Life's expensive, and how much money are we willing to pay as fans to sit there and watch for 4 hours? You start bumping up to $500-600 Canadian dollars by the time we do the conversions, and you've got $150 for lunch. There's a point of no return. So there's a lot to think about with the future of the game, and hopefully the integrity and the legacy of it will hold up over time. But as that nasty word money and profit, and the battle that's gone on between the PPA and the MLP, and there's just so much going on, and the political side of the game, I think, is going to have an adverse rub on it, unfortunately, and we just have to hope it sorts itself out at some point. So yeah. Well, guys, this has been great. I could talk to both of you all day, really could, and hopefully get a chance to have you back on the show down the road. You were two of the very first guys to even take a phone call from me. Then you walked me through a Zoom call, got me through that. And in the spirit of full disclosure, because my moral compass just won't not let me away with this, we had to start this podcast twice today because something happened to the recording. So I don't know whether it's me or you, but it's one of the two. It's got to be. So yeah, it's been a great conversation this morning. I'm glad we got through it. It looks like everything recorded the way it should. So we'll keep an eye on it here in the next couple of minutes. But I want to thank you both for all you're doing to advocate for this great game. You guys are everything that I love about the game. You've got great spunk, great spirit. Love your approach to it all. And it's been a real pleasure getting to know the two of you. And I'm going to hold you to that invite to get up and play at the Moose at some point here over the summer, hopefully, and get a chance to get to know you a little bit better. So
one thing I'd like to mention is that Chuck and I have a YouTube channel as well called, you search it under YouTube, called Pickleball Brothers. And what we do is the lessons that we give people, we do camps and all that too, where we go to them, is that Pickleball Brothers is kind of lessons for seniors. There's a ton of lessons out there to be a 25-year-old, but you know what? Watching it, at a pro level, or a 25-year-old, they play a different game than us, and our reflexes aren't as fast. So we kind of did a channel. We've had it going for a few years now, and it's just kind of give people an idea of what you can do right from the very basic, you never played before, to how to play as a senior.
Yeah. Well, listen, when we do the final edit for this, which I will send to both of you for approval, we'll make sure we include all kinds of contact info in the show notes and how to get there. And so we'll do a good job on that back end to make sure that any point of contact that makes sense to the two of you is included in all of that. So yeah, perfect.
Super.
Appreciate that. Well, listen, guys, thanks for this. Enjoy your day. I hope it involves some pickleball. I hope. I think I've got another shovel in my future here. I don't think we're quite done what we were trying to get done this weekend. So a little more yard work, a little less pickleball today for me. But want to thank you for both coming on the podcast this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks very much, Mike.